Hello. Yes, I am live. I didn't tell Giggle, so she probably won't get the notification yet. I should have really messaged her. I have got a video coming up for the Virgo energy, and then we will be looking at the Libra. But I wanted to wait for a few people to connect because there's some things we don't talk about that I said about, and I haven't actually got to do them, and I think now is probably a perfect time. And it may be due to the fact that with the Cancer Capricorn eclipse, both counterparts, and it's something in the journey, I guess. Yes, you do see in a frequency sense coming through from other divine feminines. Hi, sweet. And I guess, I do a lot of meditation, walking with other twin flames. Now, I will be going inside in a minute. I'm just having a durry. Not that I promote it, but I am. And I wanted to talk, and I have been for, well, all my life, basically. I'm also a psychic medium. I'm going to try and find a comfy spot to sit and talk with you guys, because it's really a conversation that we need to have, and we need to be real. We do talk a lot about the journey, and that's very bright, so I'm hoping it's not going to irritate everyone. I did say I was going to talk to you guys a bit about my journey and the things I've gone through in my journey. So I really want to share that with you guys, because we do look at readings and we do look at astrology. And again, in healing, the one thing we do need to understand is that we need to understand that part of the healing does come from us. But those of you who are very new to the channel, I am a twin flame as a psychic medium, as well as I've been going through ascension, as well as I am in union. And, most of you who aren't in union and you're going through all this transformation are wondering what it's like on the other side of the fence. And when I do tell you that, a lot of the symptoms that you guys experience, you experience exactly the same inside your twin flame journey. Now, the interesting thing is, and it's been a subject matter that's been coming up very heavily, and definitely in me as a twin flame, is the healing. So a lot of us are wondering why we're regressing back, and we're saying to ourselves, okay, why is this coming up in me now? Why all of a sudden haven't I purged this? Why is this old frequency and memories coming back in a sense? Well, a bit of it is to do with your twin flame journey. It's also to do with ascension. It's definitely connected to the astrology. And yes, everything does happen for a reason. When you look at the Cancer Capricorn nodes, they're with us through to 2020. They're the energy at the edge of the moon, theoretically. Correct me if I'm wrong. Regardless, the eclipses are with the Capricorn Cancer energy. We had those last month. Now, when you're tapped into Source, Gaia, God, the Matrix, universe, and you're an empath and you're psychic, which any person who is going through a spiritual transformation, you vibrationally are more susceptible to frequencies, and you will actually pick them up well and truly before the collective, which is, pockets of you will feel it beforehand, and you'll go through a purge. So when you look at the energy of a Cancerian, it is very family orientated, but you also have to look at the traits of what the Cancer does. Cancers don't let go, okay? They've got a little black book. They got the wounds in the closet. They're very family orientated. They do for others instead of themselves. And when they get triggered, they run and hide. And I know, because I am a Cancer rising, as well as the collective will be experiencing this. But they give, and they hope for the best. And it makes it very hard. And this is like anyone. It's a humanistic experience. We have this notion that when we give, we're going to receive, and it's expectation. It's also conditioning that we've had from childhood. So it's a very relevant subject to what we're actually going through right now in a transformative sense, because we're breaking down paradigms and ways. We're also looking at our inner child, because our wound core comes from childhood, okay? So when we look at our inner child, and we have trigger points that are happening, connected to twin flame, connected to other people, places, and things, it will always link back to a previous occasion, but it's coming up in a trigger sense in the here and now. So potentially for many of you, over the last 3 months, amping up into July, you may have been reflecting back very heavily so into how you've been feeling. And I know within my twin flame journey, I've been doing that myself. You also may get very cross with yourself because you're thinking, why haven't I let that go? It's very unique because healing doesn't have a time frame on it, but you've also got to look at what the energies of Cancer and Capricorn are bringing about. They're subject matters of your past. They're also dependent upon what house they fall in when you do your astrology chart. But collective energy is, we're regressing back. So how do I put it? Lots of you think that once you reach a certain point, and this is the way we've been wired, it's like you have a goal in mind and you're seeing it and you're moving towards it. But, in order to be very present in your life, you need to come back to the here and now. So a lot of trigger points of what you will experience is there are things where you're having to re-anchor your energy in. So for me, coming into my twin flame journey and returning, you do tend to find that you have a lot of trigger points. So those trigger points and the work that you've done on your life, they're already there. So a lot of what you've experienced, your healing actually comes from you. And it's very hard to explain the reasons why it comes from you. Your perspective on it counts, but to heal, sometimes in order to find closure, the easiest way is to get to a point where you have reached a certain stage, because you go through 7 stages of healing. And once you've reached that healthy point, to then feel very disconnected from it, but to look at it potentially from their perspective. And when you can look at it from a person's perspective of, maybe they were scared, maybe they had wounds inside them, and seeing it separately, because when we do things, we do it because we're triggered, we do it because we are in fear-based frequency. It's something they're doing to themselves as well as what, yes, it's occurring to you theoretically, but it's also very separate to you. And it's very hard to fathom because you're connected with them. So when you're connected with them and you haven't reached a point where, I can't say you've reached a point, you're attempting, you're trying, and it's not working, you can't understand why. And I shared a song with Giggle. Now, the song I shared with Giggle, which I will try and put in the community tab, was what I grasped last year after I broke up with my twin. And it was the reality that we can't fill a cup, okay? If you have disappointments from your past, no man is a plan, no woman is a plan. So yes, the things that happen inside the connection can trigger you, but the reality of what the lessons are that certain things are, how do I put it? You're seeing something in the 3D, but unless the person vibrationally is whole in themselves, even if they wanted to give themselves to you, even if they wanted to be a higher frequency to you, and this is all of us collectively, we're unable to show our high vibrational self because we are hurting. So when we are hurting, it's a bit like expecting a person who has gone through a nervous breakdown to be a high vibrational being. So when you have then compassion for that, it's a point in your life where you directly can step back from a situation and you can gain perspective, okay? But while it's happening to you, it's deeply, deeply painful because we're really conditioned at childhood to believe if we do right at school, we're going to get an award. If we excel at sport, we're going to win. The team's going to win. But in life, there are situations where you can be the most perfect person and the most series of very unfortunate events can occur, and that is part of life. But our comprehension of we've been trying so hard to achieve the impossible, the quote that I put on the community tab was very relevant. And it's, how did it go? And my girlfriend sent it to me as well. There's 2 ways it says. And it's when you're rejecting something, it's God's protection. Because maybe psychically you're tuning into it and you're feeling it's not part of the bigger plan. You don't quite know why, you just feel it. There's also another way of saying it is rejection is protection. Because when we are in a pain body experience, by us, Communication, 90% of it is body language. So when you're getting to a point where you're not saying something, but you're vibrationally saying it, but we're not receiving it because we don't grasp it, sometimes masculines communicate in other ways. And, the accountability is, and that's part of our ascension and part of our growth. When I reflect back, sentences were being said to me, but you're hoping that you can help a person heal. And that's why I started preaching, saying, you need to choose what you want to be in a person's life. And that comes down to you checking in with yourself. And even now, I'm still healing and I'm still checking in with myself and doing the work. And it is hard work to become a non-codependent person. It's also hard work to rewire yourself after your twin flames changed, but you're still remembering that pain body experience. It takes a lot of work and accountability, okay? So when it is a point where you can see potentially the person has changed, when trigger points come up, you're going to have to keep doing the work, and it can be very difficult. So most of you are thinking and hoping, and it might have been through the process of your journey. You've always got to check in with yourself through the journey. There'll be times when you'll jump in the hot pot and you'll be thinking, and it is your conditioning from childhood. So my conditioning from childhood, I'll give you a little bit of a spiel of what I've lived. And this is not victim. This is my perspective of what I experienced. Very young age, I moved many schools. I also had a lot of responsibility as a child and was required probably by the age of 12 to help my mother and my father with their younger siblings. Now, inner child work can be delayed because you are unable to be a child because you're being an adult well before you've developed to move into that frequency. During that time, I had a very unwell auntie, I had a very unwell grandmother, and my grandmother and my auntie lived with us. But through most of my childhood, my parent ended up being my grandmother. And it wasn't that my parents were bad people, but in that day and age, to achieve, both parents were working, which not all parents do, but that was what was happening in my childhood. So the connection for me was my grandparent. Theoretically, this is why I say kin doesn't have to be your actual biological parent. So much of my life had been caring for people. I had cared for my unwell auntie. I had cared for my grandmother. I had cared for my siblings. Divorce in my family, cared for my father, again, cared for my siblings. So most of my childhood had been about accountability, giving, not receiving. So that conditioning shaped my whole life, and even well through into my 40s where I am now, 90% of my life has been giving, not receiving. And for many feminines and potentially even masculines, the realization of the epiphany that the anger potentially doesn't just stem from that point, it stems from childhood, because you're reached a point in your spirituality where you've outgrown a way of being, but you're doing the healing connected to that area. So it can also directly impact connections. We're really not taught at school how to create healthy boundaries. And that, it all comes down to the basics of family. These days in family, where I lived in Europe, I was on a farm. And on that farm, in the community, we maybe had 50 to 100 people that lived in the village, but everybody had each other's back. Now, in the old days, families were together, till the day they died. But we spread our wings in this modern society where we don't live close to our families, where we don't live close to our friends. We live busy lives, and some of us are single parents and we're struggling financially. So it complicates life. And trying to find balance, which is what we're all trying to seek, sometimes feels impossible, because there's so many different dynamics these days. There's no norm when it comes to what a traditional relationship is. And this is really what we're having to comprehend. There was many years where as a child I would read fairy tales, and then I very much got a stark reality check into, does that exist? Well, I feel if we actually don't have, it's not so much an expectation, but it's self-worth as to what you will and won't entertain. And it's coming home to yourself and filling your cup and finding things outside of a relationship that are incredibly fulfilling. You know, growing up, my very first dream, I had a neighbor ask me, and he was very, very educated. And his mindset and conditioning from childhood, big shout out to Patrick Armour, his mindset was you're a man, you grow up, you get a high education, and you get a good paying job. And a lot of people's self esteem's and masculine frequency was very connected to this is my role. Okay. Now, due to the fact that society has changed and we do have single parents and we do have divorce rates, and we haven't developed that art at the early age of actually finding who we are as people, not what our family want us to be, not what our, the teachers think we should be. There's so many grades that we're meant to make, and this is at school, this is within family, this is within belief systems and spirituality, it can be religion, that we're so molded into being something that we spend so much time outside of ourselves looking at those things that very little time of allowance is even at a permission base given to us to be uniquely ourselves. So when we do get to that and we're really struggling and we finally reach that breaking point, the truth starts coming out. So a lot of us are transforming and realizing that, yes, you can have hopes and dreams and you can have these things, but we need to make peace with our conditioning and our past because we've all evolved beyond that point. And, these days there's so much judgment, connected to religion, connected to culture, your financial status, who you should be, how you should react to a pain body experience, that we're really micromanaging who we are as people. And it's very difficult to then ascend and be your authentic self. So I do feel a lot of people at the moment are really struggling with that. And that's why we tend to look outside of ourselves. We're trying to find solutions, but a lot of the solutions, unfortunately, are only going to come from us standing in our truth and being our authentic selves. And sometimes, unfortunately, that can look ugly. But you can't live a happy vibrational life until you come into alignment of doing and speaking and being your truth. Okay. So even through reunion, you do have these dramas where you don't want to hurt other people, but you have a belief system, you have a pain body experience, and that healing is still going to come, but you're going to go in the ups and downs. You will find there are signs and synchronicities that you will get just before reunion. And the one thing I felt was a massive detachment, disillusionment, inner peace. I found I was gardening. I was eating vegetarian. I was very detached from bills, success, from having a tower, from even letting a tower even directly remotely affect me. Because in life, what you do find is shit just does happen. And so all this angst we have over what will happen tomorrow, what if this person does this? What if this person does that? You still have that when you reach reunion. So the reason it comes up so heavily so at the very end, just before reunion, and it's not to say it's the end, trust me, it's not. But it is to do with the fact that when you get to that point, you're detaching because we never had control in the first place. And the song that comes to mind, which had been playing in my head, really through my 10 months of healing prior to reunion, was We Didn't Start the Fire. It's always burning since the world's been turning. It's like, really, when we are focusing on another individual, it's projection. Okay. So when we're looking at our twin flame or a sibling or our parent or our manager, anybody, if there's something you can fix and you need to communicate, you need to speak your truth. Is there an action you can take? Take an action. But you can't control what another person does, and you can't control their healing either. But from a spiritual point, I can talk separately about how to assist that with the ascension and fast tracking the reunion. The best thing and advice I can give you is that when you're going through it and you always find yourself focusing on what they're doing or what the karmic's doing or what you feel they should be doing, the only thing you absolutely have control over is what you're going to do. But your belief system inside your mind is, I will lose my counterpart. I will lose the love of my life. But the truth is you can't lose what's yours. And so we become conditioned to do things that we actually don't like doing. But at some point, you will actually spiritually outgrow that. Okay? So when you do actually outgrow that, you're actually stepping into your inner home. And when you are home to you, and you're actually shifting your energy onto your hopes, your dreams, when you do look at it, relationships in general are completely codependent. Now, as I said, society has completely changed. When you do shred that banana peel down to the end and you look at it, if you guys are single parents and you have been the masculine and the feminine for many years, you know, Tesla talked about this. He said the feminines will be the demise of society. And that's because the way it was man was hunter, gatherer, feminine was the nurturer at home. Now, society has changed those things, but it's been blown out of proportion, okay? So when you're a feminine and a masculine at home, feminines, I'm addressing you guys, and it can be masculines as well, because the feminine aspect is the intuition and the empath, and the masculine is the hunter-gatherer. So try not to get into the paradigms of it, because we're balancing both inside ourselves, but we're coming to terms with it as well. We're coming to terms with the new way society is and the fact that we all wanted the bloody fairy tale. With that energy, what we must understand is if you can achieve your hopes and dreams, it's within your power. If you're looking at time and you're feeling lack of, everything happens the way it's supposed to happen, and shit happens to good and bad people, okay? It's like saying to a child, if you're good, you're going to get an ice cream, and then the ice cream truck breaks down and they can't comprehend why they can't have that freaking ice cream. If you can't educate your children those things, they're being set up for absolute ruin and they won't understand. You also need to be able to have arguments in front of children and show them that it is part of life, that not always are we going to actually see eye to eye with situations, but we're going to attempt to give it our best shot. And we're going to do all we can to communicate, to be authentically ourselves, to be human and higher and lower frequency, because we're human beings, just like our parents were, and we will do the best at transforming this planet. But we can't bubble wrap our children either. We also need to come to a place that just because it's what society says, if it doesn't fit and you know you can't do it, it's something inside yourself you're going to have to come to terms with, and you're going to have to make peace with it. It could be that, how do I give an example? I mean, I had an arranged marriage when I was young. And that was society. That was conditioned to the belief systems of religion and what I went through. But I did have a choice in that. And I did know the person. It was something I moved through. And it was a lesson. It was something I went through. But for a long time, regardless of what the energy was and the feelings were inside the connection, it was what I believed was right. It was a conditioning. So some people might be having very strong, firm religious beliefs. Other people might believe it's the man's role to be the hunter-gatherer. They're still paradigms. It doesn't mean they're right. What's right for you is going to be right for you, but it's coming to terms with that and making peace with it to a point where you don't have to explain to someone. Even if you are to be the hunter-gatherer and you were required to bring that wage in, what if spiritually you can't? So we're very judgmental people, you know, and sometimes we just can't, and we need to accept that. I can say through this journey and through transformation, there have been times where I've had nervous breakdowns. because it is very heavy energy. And I'm really candidly talking to you guys about this. I'm being very open. It is not an easy journey. Had I had the tools early on in the piece, I've been very blessed to meet some really wonderful individuals over the last 3-4 years. Number one, in the very early stage, even before I came on YouTube, I was able to meet psychic like-minded friends to help me develop my gift. And in the time frame I realized I was psychic, which was very young, it was 5, I was very afraid of the energy. And the equation I can give you is The Sixth Sense, the movie. That was very much what I was experiencing. And it wasn't a time frame in which many people were talking about being psychic. It was very taboo. And I mean, if you really look back in history, being psychic is very taboo. So the things I experienced, it was experiencing it alone and having to develop that. But the development wasn't because I felt it was a gift. I actually felt it was a burden, because some of the things I would say are not beneficial. Being very young and seeing a dead person next to your bed is not something I think a 9-year-old really wants to be seeing. So I would do all I could to suppress it and rid myself of it. So as I was growing and I realized this source energy connection into source was not going to go away, I had to learn to actually work it so that I could solve these situations quicker. So for me, when I was having spirits come to me, I understood that unless I dealt with their request, whenever you get a phone call, it's because my twin's calling. And then when I hang up on him, he knows I'm live. So, working how to use your spiritual gifts, guys, is going to be very important. And 9 times out of 10, you'll find if you guys are seeing number synchronicities and you're seeing signs and you're seeing shadow people going up your wall and getting downloads, the further into your journey you get, you're actually psychic, but you haven't developed it, okay? So at the very end stages, you will actually experience in your twin flame journey, it literally feels like a psychic attack. That's the only way I can describe it. So on top of the astrology, and for me, it was super shit, I can tell you. So for you guys giving you readings, I had to always check in with myself. It was very difficult to purge last year. I think I'd reached the point where in my twin flame journey, I was like, good God, no more. Like, it was really no more. I can't do this. But I also, because I had tuned into runner chaser mode and realized in the twin flame journey, simultaneously, I was running from my twin through the whole journey. Because when it was reaching that point, because I hadn't spoken my truth, and I could have avoided so much conflict if I was not worried about breaking up or enabling or being more or being better or judging myself against other people or looking at what he should be doing over what I should be doing and filling my cup. So yes, my transformation has taken a lot longer, but obviously past life related, this was required for my spiritual journey. But where I reached that point when I decided to physically walk away, because I had already got used to checking in with myself. So I was already doing that work on myself and going, and I've really, and it's not about him, it's about me. Because it was a habit I had formed and co-created that situation myself, because we all have accountability, okay? So for me, alignment is, are you doing something you don't want to do because of fear-based frequency? Yes, I was, but I was challenging myself beyond that point to grow. So it was necessary and it did help me, okay? But at the same time, energetically, when I reflected back, because when we broke up, it was like a choice. And I said, no, no more, no deal. No, I need to go. I'm done. When I got to that point, I wasn't angry. I was sad, because I always saw, and I still do see that man. He is that man, because he was experiencing the same as me. So I saw him and me, and that's where the forgiveness came from. Because both of us energetically We had been putting up with too much shit from people, to be quite honest. We'd been, not only had I been looking at him and helping him, he was doing the same to others, and we were doing the same thing because people were codependent on us being a particular way. People had an opinion about how we were, what we should be doing, who we were, what we felt about each other. Friends, which weren't friends. But we gave people those powers, okay? So what we think we attract, truth. What we believe we co-create, truth. All through the journey, good and bad. And that's why we're manifestors. This is why I put the video up about manifestation. We are manifesting every day. What we think about, we create. What we fear, we're growing through. When I looked at it, I was the runner, but I just didn't take direct action. But internally, I was disconnecting or being triggered or no deal. And it ended up being a chess game, which is very toxic when you look at it. And this was earlier on in the piece, not, directly connected to the point we broke up. After we broke up, I wanted to run. And I was looking for the nearest rock to hide under, where I could go, where was soft, beautiful, nice. And it wasn't about another relationship. It was fear-based frequency. And wow, this has come to the highest point of crash and burn that I energetically ever had got to in my life. And I mean, I cannot explain the depth of the hell I was in, because it felt worse than, I'll say it. And it wasn't that was what was done to me. The only energy I can equate it to was spiritual rape, physical rape, abandonment, dishonesty. But it wasn't that person. It was in general my whole life. It had all come crashing down, which we were already energetically after that fact in 2017. Many people were going through the dark night of the soul. So interestingly enough, the reason why I'm potentially in union is because by working with you guys, the triggers that already had occurred in me were being re-triggered through the readings. But the trigger usually would come through prior to you coming to me, and then I already had my download psychically so I could help you. So at times, over the last 2 years through this transformation, and I always make sure I'm in high vibration before I will give you a reading. And I truly believe that if energetically you can't make it or something's blocking, it's because something on your side of the fence is needing to be achieved prior to you coming to me. So it's all divinely guided, but I never do a reading unless I am in high vibration. So sometimes the delays are there for that reason. And I could have gone on YouTube during the process and purged and cried my head off and being very toxic, which, sometimes I'm a bit regretful that I didn't, because I wasn't as open with you guys about my transformation. But at the same time, because all of us were in a retrograde, I really didn't feel it'd benefit you. So I was very private about my deep pain that I went through, which, once the cracks are there, they're there forever. They don't go away, but it's making peace with them. And, I can actually say I energetically have changed a lot. And even when my twins' friends would come and see me, and this was before we reconciled, which I thought was beautiful, I'd even made peace with his friends. But it wasn't because I wanted to be best friends with them. It was because it wasn't serving me to be angry. And they did hurt me. They did betray me and lie to me over the years. They pissed in my pocket. But there's no point mentioning it because they actually didn't do it to me. They did it to themselves. And that's sad because I've always been a good person. We can't teach stupid, I'll tell you. You have to live it. You've got to get to a point where, and that's why I think early on in the journey, I was always trying to save people. And this was before I even met my twin. This was younger years. Because I had experienced something well and truly before they had. So I, in theory, felt that if I prevented them from experiencing that, very similar to Twin Flame Journey, and it's ringing now, that somehow they could avert the disaster that I went through. But only now can I actually say, and potentially for the last 10 years, I actually realised that we don't learn that way. The only way we learn is to experience vibration. So in the twin flame path, you will find that you will live their life and they will live yours, and you'll see both sides of the fence. And it's so you can have compassion, understanding, and closure. Closure doesn't come from a person, because I can come to you and really stuff you up and say sorry, and until you've made peace with it, it means jack shit. Because you need to look at the reasons why they did it, number one, which isn't about you, okay? So when a person's being mean to you, something's going on in their life and something happened from the past, you have to check in with you to see whether that's okay. And yes, you can have compassion for them, okay? But, you know, when we're healing, the reason we're not taking our power back is because we don't want to lose them. But you can't lose what's yours. And trust me, I couldn't lose my twin. He's climbed in my window. I've climbed in his. There's been karmics. There's been children. We have been on this journey, and I have been in love with him since the day I met him. But I didn't think it was right. I was in a connection. And it wasn't that it was like instant love. If anything, I thought he was an absolute jerk. But I was intrigued by him because he was the element of what I wanted to incorporate into my life. He was the shadow side of me. So when I looked at him, it was like he's very playful. He's very quiet, very unique. I actually felt that he was treated similar to the way I was. And it doesn't mean that the people that were in his life were bad people. I just saw a correlation between maybe an aspect of myself as well as something that I really needed to integrate into my own life. And this has been very beneficial to help me grow. So when we did break up, what I did find I was saying to friends and to people that I cared about that knew both him and I was, this was the best thing that ever happened to me. It was the shittiest thing that ever happened to me. I thought I was going to die. But at the same time, I also knew the only way I was going to come home was to do the work, because you could leave that person, right, and never go back to them. But the reality is the pain's inside still. So the peace that you need to make is with yourself, that you weren't wrong, that you did the best you could, that you will grow from this situation. You will have that happy day and you will get to a peaceful place where you will understand their side of the fence. And it doesn't mean that it was right. I'm not saying that. But the only way you're going to make peace with it and ascend and reach your union is by getting to that state and realizing that, you know, it's risk. It is, every connection is risk. And you can't break what's already broken. You really can't. I mean, if you're broken, it's broken, right? But I needed to make peace with my break. And I'm still working on making peace with my break. I had many hopes and dreams with my twin. And that's part of the sad path as well, because, you know, don't ever look at another person's journey and say, oh my God, Yildiz has been on her twin flame journey for over 20 years. Theoretically longer, because you're a twin at birth. And yeah, it has taken a long time. But maybe I had a lot of shit to get together. Okay, I haven't been perfect. I was very rigid. I was quite religious growing up, which is ironic because I had a Christian mother and a Muslim father. How do you go figure? But my paradigm and my belief system was very black and white. So that sheltered life I lived was very quickly awoken. And I spent most of my childhood reading fairy tales, and I truly believe they were there. And being European men they are romantic as hell. But I was a different energy. And what's that song? Lana Del Rey, Chameleon Soul. That song I so relate to, because inside I feel divine feminines we've got that black moon Lilith in us, okay? You have the shadow side of you. You need to let it come out. Now, the shadow side doesn't have to be dark energy, okay? Yeah, I love Little House on the Prairie. And Anne of Green Gables. I mean, let's not even start, eh? But my point is, and I don't know what my friggin' point is, it's painful. It is a painful path. when I got back into when I started talking to his friends, the reason I said it was the best thing that I ever did was because when you go to a therapist, which I haven't, but I have spiritual friends that do have a therapy background, which was fantastic. Thank you so much. It helped me stop, and I realized the only way I was going to be free was to do the work and get that horrible yuck out of my body, because I was carrying it. And, you know, when we're angry at people, we're carrying shit with us. We've got that Hessian Florence and the Machine, dragging that horse around. I mean, that's my song, man. I was doing that for years. And I went, you know what? I looked at Reese, love you. And I said to him, am I running? And he goes, yeah, you're running. And I went, okay. So the challenge I took for myself was, I'm not going to leave the town that I live in with my twin. But I couldn't bring myself to go to the shopping centre. And that was because I didn't want to be a lower frequency aggressive person towards the karmic. I wanted to, because it wasn't who I was. And to me, you know, if I felt my twin was happy, I wanted him to be happy. And that's how much I loved him. It was like, I'd never take that from him. Even if I felt like I'd been dragged through the friggin' bush backwards, I always saw the very best in that human being. And I always saw they had a lot of pain and they didn't get treated correctly. And that wasn't my fault. And at times we take our shit out on the ones we love. And that is what happened. But at the same time, if it meant that potentially another person would make him happy, I needed him to see that through. And I needed to take myself out of that equation so he could make that decision. Because you don't fight for something that doesn't fight for you. But you don't have to fight, because love isn't about fighting. Although you do, because you are two different people. You know, probably this year, and it's not to do with the fact that I want my channel to be successful, or that, you know, my readings are very unique. They're very different to most of them on YouTube. But through my lessons is my perspective in which I say, when you're triggered, don't look at sappy shit. Don't go and look for readings that are pissing in your pocket and telling you what the karmic's doing. You tune into the karmic, you're co-creating that, all right? Truthfully, you know, your growth and your healing to reach union, the reason I focus so heavily on your energy, on astrology, is to keep you grounded through the transits. Because if you can't keep grounded and ascend and heal, you won't make twin flame journey. And by the time you do reach twin flame journey, and I'm being completely honest, the triggers that I experienced coming into reunion, and I'd love to talk to other twins that are in union, because this was my experience. The triggers were every 15 minutes. Now, it doesn't mean to say that's going to be like that for you, but if you've purged, you're going to handle it. And I handled it because I checked myself. It's like Yildiz. This person's not the same person. You're not the same person. You've done the work. Now don't. If you're looking outside of yourself, you're not checking inside yourself. Come back to you. You're focusing on another person. Why aren't you checking yourself? You know, have you done your cleaning? Have you done some meditation? Are you focusing on what you need to heal? You can't control what another person does. I've had trigger points with phones, and that's with various individuals in my life, hiding things, cheating, lying. Now, I could get to a point where I could go through a partner's phone. What's that going to serve? That means the reality is, where there's a will, there's a way, peeps. Don't even do it to yourself. You choose to give a person a chance. You move forward with that. I will not be like a karmic. I'll yell if I need to, but I won't be like a karmic. I don't control the people I love. I might tell them if they piss me off, but I'm not going through no mobile friggin' phone. I'm not going through bank accounts because I've got my own shit, okay? If I don't like doing something, I won't do it. And I'll say so. But if you have to go back to that and you can't make peace with that, the reality is if that person comes back into your life and they fuck up, you're going to leave them. Because you're giving them a chance. But we can't control what other people do. But we can expect respect. It's not an expectation. Your benchmark is your need. You have selective needs. You know, and I talk openly with my twin. I explain that my healing is a process and I won't apologize for it. There are days I'm fantastic. There are days I'm a bitch. But I won't apologize for it. I'll help explain the reasons why, but I'll always say it's me that needs to do the work and I understand and I'm doing the work in that area. But it makes me feel like X, Y, and Z. And what he does with that is completely up to him. Just like when he has a trigger point and he explains something to me, it comes down to me too. It's team. There's no I in team. So what you're assessing, I can say when we did make contact, I had detached of how it would be, when it would be, reached a resolve that it would be. Because that's the way it's always been with us. We love each other. It doesn't look like that at all times. It looks like a shit show. But we have a lot of not commons. I mean, the other day, and if he listens to this, he'll laugh at me. He pissed me off so much. I love vegan, right? I'm a vegan. He is meat and cheese and eggs and unhealthy to the max, but hey, he's the shadow aspect of me. And, you know, I cared for people over the years in community, in palliative. My father's very unwell, so I have that going on too. When you look at that, when a person's reaching a point in their life, and this is the way you got to look at it, you can't even control what a person eats, right? I would care for people that had cancer, they were dying and they were smoking and they're going, and the nursing home would be going, we're going to make them quit. If that's what they want to do, whether you judge it or not, okay, that's their last days and it's their choice, okay? It's their choice to do what makes them happy. That's all that counts. It's their last days. And I would scratch my head and say, okay, let me get it this way. There was this lovely Aboriginal man I cared for, loved him to bits. And, you know, when we get dementia, we become, unfortunately, we regress back. So a lot of the elderly that were growing up in that era reverted back to racism because that's the way it goes, right? They don't know. So I could be angry at them because, hey, they're being racist, but it's not them. It's the old version of them. So all you can do is try and maneuver around the situation to help both parties. So I would take him out and give him a smoke because that was my job. Wasn't allowed to on site. But I could go and I could light it for him, hand it to him, and then stand next to him so nothing would burn. And then he'd go back to his room. But they were very racist towards him. And the thing is, it's like, let people be who they are. So the interesting thing is there'll be so many things similar between you and your twin, but there'll be so many stark differences too. So he likes his deep fried chips, and I've been I don't really eat chips. And if I do, they're oven bake. I'd had 10 months of vegetarian. I'd never felt cleaner. It was fantastic because it's who I am. When my twin came back, we had to reintegrate meat, which was interesting because I became anemic, so I theoretically needed it after all the ascension symptoms. So I reincorporated the meat back into my diet. But it's a healthy negotiation, you know, because the reality is you're actually getting to know the physical person, not the person you thought they were. And that's what's going to be really hard. And all of you are going to experience this because once they do transform, you're going to be scratching your head going, I've been playing chess with you. Are you coming? Are you going? And then they don't go and you're like, okay, you're not the same person, but you're judging an old energy of what they're no longer. So it's like you literally have to wipe that slate, and it's hard because it's there, right? But they're not that person anymore. So when it comes to the food, he'd eat fried chips, steak, you know, I love you, babe, but oh my God, like it's oily. It's really heavy. Now he's got me back into binging on chocolate and I've really got to stop. But I made a surf and turf the other day and I love my seafood. So I love and I'm a good cook. I'm a great cook. I could have been a chef. So I've made it and my daughter loves it too. And for a vegan, I eat medium rare steak. It's really strange. So I've made my steak and my daughter sat down and he's in the middle. And all of a sudden I heard this noise and he's like, bleh. And I went, and he's got up and run out. And of course, that triggered me. How dare you? Do you know how much shitty, oily food I have to put up with? So I took my dinner outside. Now, the reality is you're both different. Okay, so I'm thinking if we go out to dinner, are you going to run out of the restaurant if I'm having surf and turf? I can't even have surf and turf now. You're getting to know the new version of who the real person is, and it's going to take some adjustment. It's not going to happen right away. It's going to take some work. But you're actually going to get the blessing but you got to have the relationship with yourself. And this is what I mean by we're not taught these things. And this is why our journey's been so complicated. Are we taught how to deal with conflict, with our friends at school? No. And really, did we have a say as children when it came to growth and what we wanted? No, it was okay. Mum's Christian, dad's Muslim. This is what it is. Again, they didn't really push their religion on me, but there are families that do that because you're choosing for that person before they've created their own identity to choose what's theirs. This is our conditioning. Don't shoot me. This is just a perspective. It doesn't mean it's right. It's a perspective. So getting to know yourself is key. Conflict resolution with friends, people, places, things, owning your power, balancing your chakras. We don't get taught these skills at childhood. Go and talk to them, you deal with it. But how? What's the way? Okay. So at the moment with my twins' children, there are certain terms coming up in words. And I say to them, but those are lazy words. Hate. Lazy word. And it's not that it's a wrong word. It's just, yes, but I'm trying to. So what we need to do is feel our feelings. So it's no, okay, you're mad. Why? What's really going on? I mean, is that where we need to get to? We need to get back to basics. What's really going on? So even in retrograde, you'll find the most toxic of frequencies will come up in us. Communication. We'll learn through them, which is beneficial. But how we directly communicate our truth, how another person receives it, you have no control over. So I always look as divinely God. And if you're having a BS, it's supposed to happen. It's coming up. But the Capricorn Cancer energy of the nodes and the eclipses is like, Cancer energy is all of the past coming back, man. So yes, it's very painful, feminines. Yes, it's very painful, masculines. And I truly believe it's this month that the masculines are going to be going through that. Okay? Does anybody have any questions about my twin flame path? The one thing I will say is just before reunion, you're going to be purging till the cows come home. You're going to be like squeezed and then detached. You won't want to feel their energy. When you start getting the energies where you feel your twins, you'll know it's theirs because you'll be having a fantastic day. You'll be like, I'm living the dream. This is so nice. I feel so light. I'm peaceful. I'm meditating. And then bang, it'll hit you and you'll feel like crying. It's because it's not your energy. It will be a psychic attack because you're spiritually interlinked. And when you tune into them, you're going to get that too. So the best advice I can give you guys is get some tourmaline. Or what's the other one? Obstinine. Psychic spiritual stones. Purple amethyst, which is going to help detox your chakra and your crown and keep it clear. And you're going to need to cleanse yourself when it's coming through. And when you do feel that energy, breathe in and push it and go, you can handle it and detach. And you're going to have to, it's a psychic energy tool, okay? You're going to, at that stage, energetically train yourself, thanks, Shelley, to detach. And I gave those to Shelley the other day because she's experiencing those energies, and that's what I experienced just before reunion. So when you're getting that and it's feeling like a psychic attack, it's like you guys are in it. I can't even explain how horrible it is because you are okay. You're like, I'm doing the work and I'm really good. And then you're like, oh, it's not nice. Yeah. But again, the astrology and your chakras, have a routine check-in with yourself. Okay, how am I today? Okay. Do I feel out of alignment? Is there something coming up? Is it coming up with, is there a pain body experience coming up? Is there an ache or a tingle happening in one of the chakras? Okay, clear it. Retrograde, lower chakras. always clear them. You'll know when they are. You'll get lower back pain. So you'll feel at the higher level, you could feel like you could own the world, and then you could feel like you've got no power at all. They're the lower chakras, right? You can balance them with meditation, with food. That's why they say get into light body frequency. Definitely by the Virgo moon, you guys are going to need to get into light frequency because it is a detox. If something isn't working this month, you're going to see it. And I do feel whatever's meant to be is coming through in this month. I do feel, and look, a lot of what you guys are experiencing, I'm experiencing it in the union, okay? So I'm not immune to it. It doesn't, and this is why I say what's going on with you has nothing to do with whether you are or aren't with them. You're the same energy, but you're two different people. So you're simultaneously going through transitions, but as you ascend, they energetically upgrade quicker. So the quicker you detach, and you'll get scared because you'll be like, why don't I feel their energy? It's perfectly normal because you're moving away from a codependent patterning. And the adjustment when you're moving your energy back into you is like, I'm not going to focus on you because you're your own person. You have your own hopes and dreams. You have your own power and your abilities to create. You got your own intuition. I won't own that. That's a you responsibility. What is your responsibility? Yeah. So even when you think about how will they come, don't do that. Even when you think, well, they'd have to do X, Y, and Z. No, they won't, because by the time you break it down, single parent example, if you've been paying for your stuff and you've been working and you have your friends and you have your tribe, a connection is going to be the salt and pepper or the sauce on the meal. The reason I say that is because you've filled everything yourself. You're choosing love and sex. That's it. And teamwork, because you're making joint plans then. Other than that, especially if you've already had kids, there's no reason. You're cool. You're good. You know yourself. Best thing that could have happened to me. It was the shittiest thing that could have happened to me. It was the most painful thing, and it still is, but I'm healing and I'm working through it. But it is the best thing that ever happened to me because I realized I've been running from myself and I've been running from my power. And all of it came up through the dark night of the soul. But I also realized that I had been tolerating certain things from various individuals, not one person, but it was my twin's energy that showed me that. But I realized in my life to come home to myself. Some of you might be going, I'm moving on. If you just unless you've made peace in your home and yourself, you'll never be there for anyone. You won't have it because you won't trust anyone. Because you haven't made peace with the pain yourself. You're not ready. And that's okay. Don't keep looking for waterfalls, It's like your waterfalls inside yourself. It's those deep emotions. You got to check in with yourself. And, it's so funny. You'll have friends say to you, you need to move on. What? Is there going to be a guy that drops from the sky that is going to turn up? That would have happened, right? You want to know that if someone's coming into your life, it's naturally happening. You're not going on a date site and going, hi, fake face, the mask. Come on, guys, we've moved past that point. You want to know that you're at a barbecue and somebody comes up and talks to you and you get those butterflies and you're like, hey, don't I? Let's see. But you'll be there if that happens. You're not there yet. If you're looking at videos and you're tuning into your twin and you're feeling their vibration, if you're an actual twin, you're going to feel their vibration till the day you die. If you can make peace with that and move forward and it naturally occurs, that's divinely guided. But don't go looking for waterfalls because you're going to hurt yourself more. I had to ask myself the question, have I healed enough to sleep next to another person? No. And I would check in each month, each day. No. And it wasn't that the boom chickawawa. It wasn't. It was me. It was the healing. It was the person. It was the piece of my heart I'd given him. What you've given you can't ever get back. And it's like, sorry, dude, you robbed it already. And it's so funny. There's so many songs through different transitions of my twin flame journey. I could literally mention. It's ridiculous. But at the end of the day, where a lot of you are as feminines and masculines, you're coming to a realization that you've changed. But you also need to not freak out, which is really hard through the retrogrades and the transformation, but try and make peace with it, okay? That's the best advice I can give you, because then you're going to feel happier. Regardless of whatever happens, you know that moving forward, your essential need is to feel happy again. And unless that healing can happen, push them aside for a sec, just in the thought process, be it they're there or they're not, you know you need to get back to happy. So unless you can do that healing, you won't have anything to offer anyone, including yourself. And it is very difficult to do the work, but you are free once you have, and it feels much lighter. Does that make sense? And even if they said, sorry, it's not going to take away the pain. So a lot of my healing was actually done before reunion. And I'm still doing it now because there's that secondary stage of reintegrating it with another person. But unless you can just on a day-to-day basis have that happy, then moving into connections in general, you're healed because you're like, I'm good. I know what makes me happy. When I'm with my garden, I'm connected to Mother Nature. When I talk to my friends, when I talk to my clients who are like my family, you guys rock, okay? So, learning about spirituality, it's who I am. I've always been this way. So I'm embracing the uniqueness of who I actually am as a psychic medium and a twin flame. And I'm okay with that. I'm cool. So I've made peace with those areas, making peace with your family, your friends, even if they've screwed you over. It's like you can't control what another person does. I mean, my mum says the darndest things and I scratch my head and I'm like, okay. She is who she is. Some people will spiritually grow. Some people are cemented and they're going to stay that way forever. And that's a them problem, not a you. The energy you give them is where you have accountability. But don't run either. If you're running from people, places, and things and not speaking your truth, and I'm not saying, hey, go gun-ho, because this will, I want this video to be universal, so anyone who's a twin or a feminine can listen to this video. So I don't want it time stamped in a sense of talking about transits. That's not what it's about. It's about the transition and the transformation of what we go through this process. Like I said, there's been karmics, there's been hopes and dreams dashed. A lot of us at the moment, and through your journey, will reach a stage where your storyline will change, because you might have wanted kids with them and then times changed and maybe suddenly you don't want kids, or maybe you're too old to have kids, or you might have wanted a house and now you've detached from, the energy sources of needing assets, of even caring about them, because they don't define you, because you're filling your cup. So you will evolve, so too will the journey, so too will your needs, desires, hopes and dreams. But it's a purge as well, because you're sad, because you'd wanted it and waited a long time. Any questions while I'm here before I have a quick break, and then I'll come and do the Virgo energy for the astrology. And I'll probably do some more of these to talk about various stages of the journey. But I just wanted to really share, some of the experiences that I went through after the breakup. Yes, at times I was crying on the floor. At times I was very angry, and then other times I was at peace. But it was a yo-yo. It was really, really horrible. Plus, I had YouTube, and I really didn't want to let you guys down either. It did come to a place where I was like, well, I know my truth, but it also did bring up for me making peace with my ex-husband, of what happened back then too, because there's a stage and a process that you go through to close doors, right? So there's lots of doors that we close, both on males and female sides, and breakups and finding peace and, finding that closure. of different things that have happened to you. And it's not that they were bad people or good people. It's just your comprehension, your peace, and doing things the right way, to talk things through with people, to do things the right way. Yeah. Yeah, but it's better out than in, right? But it's when it becomes a routine, and I'd always check myself. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to live in this frequency. I will not. And, I heard a reader the other day, and I do have many terrible readings, but I just click off. It's like, I can't listen to this. And it's only because of how far I am into my twin flame journey and how much I've learned, how much I understand, the fact that I'm psychic, the fact that I saw patterns. And that's what I teach you guys, not what's out there. It's not that what's out there is wrong. It's just from my experience in my journey, what I noticed is what I share with you. So it's very different to some of the things that's out there. Because, we're taught that there's run a chaser, but check yourself. Half the time you guys broke up, you were about to fucking run yourself. You just didn't want to own it. Because you were like, oh, this is too much. So you're both the runner. Sad truth to admit. And, we look at masculines as like, we've ascended, we're the open ones, and they're quite logical. They sensed it in you. That's why they retreated. It's like, you're not quite ready. There's a bit going on here with you. We're stepping back. It is full on. It's every 15 minutes. It's karmic bullshit. They're purging karmics. They're taking their power back. But it's not that they're not where we are. They're just doing it differently. And it's not that they're further back than us. I'd have to say, I actually don't think they are. They're just handling it a different way. But we can't, in a way, potentially, they may be coming to terms with the fact that they're expected to be a certain way still. And they're trying to, they are growing that very quickly, trust me. But at the same time, they're taking accountability with certain things, but in a different way than you're thinking. They're taking one for the team. I'll tell you that. Many times when they've left you, they're protecting you. And it might look fucked up the way they've done it, but it could have been. It's where they've got themselves. So it's like, okay, if you won't reject me, I'm going to help you reject me, because I'm telling you where I'm at. My glass is half full and I can't give any more. And you're not listening. You're not letting go. You're not owning your power. And it's like, we can't save people. We all save ourselves. Then we come to the table and we have something to offer. Any questions? Yeah, but a lot of times when we speak our truth, is it our truth? Because each time they say be careful and check the masculine when they come back to you. I had no qualms because I'd moved past my fear. The reality is it's going to work or it's not. And what if that was a grand opening? Each time they come to you is an opportunity. And you have to, it's not about what's occurring. If they've walked towards you, you've got to take it from today. And see. And if it doesn't evolve, you still stay in alignment and you keep doing you. So advice is, if your twin comes towards you, if you triggered, you still haven't healed, regardless of what they're doing. You can state your case of what you need and then step back. But if they then come towards you, you can attempt and see if it moves forward. And if it doesn't, you step away. Any other questions? Hi, AA. I told my twin that. I said I worked in mental health, right? Like I used to be a carer for mentally ill patients, and I was pregnant and I was still working. And I loved my job, and I'm great at the job I did. And they would always put me in D block, and I'd go in, have a great day. I'm in C block or A block, and then they go, Yildiz, you're in D block. And I go, if you put me in there one more day, you'll be checking me in. And then, and I'd end up working in all the blocks anyway, medication to all different rooms, because I was reliable and knew my job well. So I said to my twin, I said, you know, I've been living D block through this journey. Yep. I want friggin' A block and not AAA, AAA. Let's go to addiction counseling. I want my happy ending. I'm going to get my happy ending. And he had an opportunity to be a V8 supercar driver, driving them around the world. And he turned it down. He stepped up. And I said to him, you are my V8, okay? I'm getting my bloody V8. He goes, you've got your V8. I said, no, I want my happy freaking ending. It will step in there, Steph. It'll come correct when it's meant to. At the moment, and again, I don't want this reading to be based on this year, but I will make a statement connected to this year, and that is that they are going through a mass transformation. And it is there. It's happening. Great patience is required. It's very painful. A lot of us are purging and healing and moving forward, and it's big changes, and the astrology sometimes can trigger us. But at the same time, it is occurring. So just tune out if it's going to stay the same, because when you tune into that, you're co-creating it. And just keep being you. If it triggers them, it's their issue. Just like if they trigger you, it is a you issue. It has been a huge chance. Yes, it has been. So I just really wanted to come to you guys and, you know, share with you part of my experience, because, you know, I'm not magic. I'm not invincible. Yes, I have been through hell and back. There's been karmics, and there's been children, and there's been friends, and then toxic friends, and interferences through the journey, separations, loss of assets. I would say trying to find peace. You know, trying to keep ourselves grounded. And just being yourself. I mean, look, the Leo moon is really asking us to be ourselves, but it can bring some trigger points up. It can bring some arguments up to actually go through. And it's, again, with the Cancer energy, it's to do with the past. And it's not we're living in the past. We can't. It's not here anymore. But there are certain things that are triggering memories from the past, trying to find peace, trying to deep internalization and potentially projection. Yeah, no, it's work. Yeah. Well, I kind of thought that, like, a lot of my twin has changed. He's home. He's home to himself. He's getting there. Much, much more at peace, more authentically his own self, which is beautiful to see. Anyway, I'll leave it on that note. But there is beautiful things. It's just the transformation. It's very, have I grown enough? No, haven't I? Have I checked in with myself? Oh. And it's realignment. And it's like, I'm looking outside of, so no, deal with that. Okay, refocus my energy onto this. It's like training yourself. You're training yourself to be the new you, even though you are. But because you've gone through certain things, it's not they haven't. They're doing certain things. You just happen to be with them while they're doing that, and that triggers you. You're like, oh, that reminds me. It's like, ugh. Yeah, I don't mix with BS, honestly. And it's not that I can't be around it. I just don't think it's a fantastic frequency. Quite frankly, I don't do drama. And you can't teach dumb. It's like, oh. And I'm not talking about intellectual. I'm talking about growth. You know, you can't teach that to a person. They have to experience that and choose to walk through that. Some people live being blocked. Thanks, Jen. Yeah, well, I am so wanting to do Libran today because I'm Libran and my twin's rising is Libran. And I know something's going up with Libran because we're like But the Virgo one's next. If you are wanting a booking, you can go to the link that will be below. Yes, I can channel past over loved ones. I also can help you with your blockages in your twin flame path, because as soon as you talk, I can tune into their energy. But at the same time, in the way in which you speak about it, I can see the blocks. Okay, and I can help you, because your energy to move to that point is key to your union. And then the astrology tends to navigate between why such situations are coming up. So generally around that time, I can give you that too. But no, it doesn't have to be twin flame path. It can be your career, or it can be your family, or I can tune into your loved ones, alive and passed over. Okay, give me a few minutes. I don't even know what time it is, because I had to go to my sister's this morning to just feel like a human being, because all work and cleaning is not good for my energy. And I will get onto them again shortly. I'll be back soon. That's okay.